Welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. Coach Corey Campbell here with me. I'm Matt Mosley. And, Coach, it's here. It's playoff season, and it's an exciting time of year. And everybody's got a little pep in their step. This is what you play for. And you guys did what we knew you'd do to Irving and take them down 49-0. And seemed like everybody was pretty focused, except for that one little pass y'all gave up early on. But it was a pretty thorough shellacking. And I would say, again, y'all continue to do great things on offense. The defense came up strong, and anytime they had any sort of a threat at all, you kind of turned the lights out on them. Let's go over just a few quick things from the first half. First of all, welcome in to the Boneyard Podcast, and congratulations on returning to the playoffs. And here we go with round one by district Friday night and Gopher Bowl against SGP. How are you feeling about things?
Yeah, it's exciting time of year. Just like you mentioned, man, we just got off the practice field about 30 minutes ago. Feels like football weather finally outside. So that's nice. I was probably, 5 years old, first time I went to the Gopher Bowl. So I've been there a time or two, and it's a historic venue. We're excited to go there and play a great opponent in South Grand Prairie. I think our kids are excited about being in the tournament, so to speak. Have an opportunity to win a gold football Friday night. At the end of the day, that's what you play for.
Well, and this South Grand Prairie team, last year y'all handled them pretty well, 27-0. This is a sixth straight season the two get together, and it's just almost like it's become one of the state's traditions that you two will get together. And then I thought that was interesting, something you shared with us off camera there. There could have been a chance for it to be more of a neutral site game. And because of an interesting UIL rule, if you've played them the last couple of seasons, which you have, then it can be at their place. And that's the exception to y'all having to find a neutral site. And so shed a little light, if you don't mind, on why two second-place teams, they're 9-1, y'all are 8-2, why you do have to go over there.
Yeah, so, several years ago, the UIL started first-round playoff games, the higher seed host. And the reason they did that, went to that format, is because stadiums are so scarce. When you have four teams in the playoffs, people didn't have venues. And so the UIL went to a home team host type of format, and just so happens they wrote an addendum to the rule. They've been to our place the last 2 years. We finished with the same seating, and so we drew the straw to go over there because of that rule. Technically, if you haven't played them, we would be at a neutral site or a flip home and home scenario. But like I told the guys on Friday night, we knew this was part of it. We didn't talk to the kids much about until after the Irving game. And so, again, we're excited to go there.
All right. And for some odd reason, I never do this, but I just thought so I won't be tempted to just be in conversations. I'm going to go sit on the visitor side and see if I can just really focus in on the game and then become friendly with the Irving folks and good hot links over on the visitor side, by the way, I found out. But there were a couple of plays that just unfolded right in front of me, which was kind of nice over there along the sideline. One was Hollywood had the interception, and after they made one play in the passing game early, you guys really throttled it down there, and then they tried to go with an out to the boundary there, which we used to call the sideline, but now nobody can talk about it without calling it a boundary. But all of your defensive backs were in good position there, but he closed and I think showed some of his really good ball skills, and that was a really good play early in that ball game.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Hollywood, his athleticism, obviously he's comfortable back there. This is his third year on varsity to play at that safety position, and he's got great ball skills. We played him a time or two at wideout, and we might again. But he broke on the ball, made a great play, and anytime you can turn the ball over, especially early in that game, it gives the offense back the ball and able to go down and score. So changes the complexion of the game.
Yeah, and your defensive line, linebackers, everybody was doing. They really didn't have any answers for you guys. I got to say, late in the first half, you kind of started to call off the dogs, and I think you're up at that point probably 28-0 or 35-0, and you've started to put in some of your reserves. And that's always been what we've talked about is, hey, those guys got to be ready, and you never know. I mean, you had a reserve that's ended up being one of your best players on your team, or you had an injury earlier this season, and Chris Terrio stepped in. But I got to say, and I know he's been banged up this year, but I used to hang out with his dad. Our daughters were in dance together for years. But Wilson Dormany looked like he was shot out of the cannon over there. I guess he came up from a linebacker spot, but late in the first half, that play really stood out to me.
Yeah, fun to see those guys make plays. They spend a lot of time doing it, and I think there's a little chess game there. It's week 10. You got to be careful. We're having conversations, via technology on the headphones, and you start asking yourself, about week 11. And so we wanted to get a lot of guys in, as quickly as we could, try and keep that. We did play a few guys. I wanted the offense to be able to go back out and get a series. I don't know how many games we played this year. Coach Howell always gets on to me, but at the end of the day, we probably played 4 or 5 games where our offense didn't take the field in the fourth quarter, and that hurts a little bit. And so, but you've got to find that fine line there because staying healthy is the most important thing.
Yeah, I thought it was nice too. I think it was like National Celebrate the Officials Night or something, and that lasted about 10 minutes with you. The weird play in the game. Chuck thought he had a free play. It was pretty obvious from my vantage point. Irving was offsides, and so he kind of threw one up toward the goal line to see what would happen. And did they pick up the flag? I saw you kind of charging down that direction to get an explanation, but it was like they never made a call. It was a very obvious offsides. What did they try to say?
Yeah, they said that the defensive line had lined up with enough depth. I argued that their argument was that they didn't make contact. My argument was that you didn't have to make contact. They were in the neutral zone. We snapped the football, but it's kind of a touch and go play, judgment call on their part. They end up not throwing a flag. We think we have a free play and throw it down, 50 yards down in the end zone. They make a play, and it's kind of a bang situation in which we ended up turning the ball over because we thought we had a free.
Yeah, you're right. The flag did not ever come out. That's it. It looked extremely obvious to me. So not to keep taking you down these rabbit holes about the officials. Early on, Christian, and I know we'll talk about him a little bit more coming up, but Christian Rhodes takes one to the house. I think that's the first touchdown, 66-yard touchdown. And it is, he's done it so often in his career. It was kind of fun to see it on senior night as he's obviously become one of the more decorated backs in Lake Highlands history. But every once in a while, he gets out there and shows that elite speed. And while Irving had some decent athletes over there, there was no one that, it didn't matter what angle they had, there was no one that was going to catch him.
Yeah, I told the offensive line today in meetings, I think, the goal is to rush for 100 yards, 150 yards, whatever, in a game like that. And when you get Christian going on the first play, obviously he's a big part of what we do. And so that was good. It's good to see. And just like I told the guys in meetings this morning, we're going to need some of that. When you play really good football teams, we're going to play on Friday night in South Grand Prairie. Some of those runs are 3 and 4 yards. Some of them are 8. Some of them are 0. Some of them are 12. And we've got to be able to stick with that. And some of those hard yards, and we're going to count on them to do that Friday night.
All right, and I'll talk more about it because we are going to have a couple of the assistants on later, and I'll talk to Coach Hattemer about his O-line and those guys. But you brought the O-line up. Your center has been banged up, and he continues to play well, and hopefully he's getting a lot healthier. Wright, who was out with, I believe, a concussion, is back in there helping you at guard. So although you've had to shuffle the line, it does seem like they've kind of hung in there.
Yeah, they've done a great job. We have kind of been through it this year, and that's part of football. You're gonna have those years where it's kind of musical chairs up there. Losing a player the caliber of Mason Bush, in week one was devastating. And then, we've had a few other injuries up there. And so guys have had to step in and fill those roles. And, hopefully this time of year, we're kind of starting to gel a little bit up front.
All right. And the some of the plays in this game, both Spangler and Mason Spangler and Conrad Entz continue to make plays. They're really good. They got great size, and Conrad obviously is so much taller than most of these DBs that if you throw it up high, but you have to high point those balls. They're very, very good at it. And then you got a Franklin kind of mossed them too. You had a couple of those moss them type deals. That's the old Randy Moss thing where you kind of reach up and catch one over somebody's head. But Franklin had a great one down there around the goal line, and boy, y'all continue to feed him. And to my eye, he's become one of the top. He is. Is he the top touchdown maker on the team?
I believe so. I think he's got 16 or 17 touchdowns on the year, so he leads the team in touchdowns. And his versatility to doing it from the backfield and for receiving, he's done an unbelievable job this season.
All right, and then also we had a catch from Junior Osaroa. We've seen Abel Osaroa come up and make plays, and then Kobe got involved in the offense, and so you had a lot going on. And as you said, you got to see in the second half, got to see maybe some of the future of the program. John Cothran, his dad's an old buddy of mine. Always fun to see people's kids get involved, and he's a sophomore that you've brought up in recent weeks. And then Wilson Stewart playing some running back for you. But it's all good to get a look at some of those guys.
Yeah, most definitely. John's been on the JV, played, I guess, 8 ball games or whatever, and able to get him in the second half of the Irving game Thursday night. And he made a few plays, which we thought he could, and we're looking forward to his development, as the future goes along.
Okay. Ashley's a friend of mine too, his mom. I don't want to get in trouble there, but yes. So good deal there. Let's get into it because we want to take you. This is such an important this to go behind enemy lines. And I'm excited to hear you and Davis talk about some of what South Grand Prairie is going to bring to the table. And I've noticed you've erased a lot of the things y'all have worked on. So it's not like I'm going to share anything with anybody. But let's do our offensive and defensive players of the game.
Offensive player in the game is going to be Christian Rhodes. Got us started with that big run. Christian has had, again, like I mentioned a while ago, multiple games where he hasn't played in the second half. But, I think he was big in the Jesuit game on the early run, big the other night. And so our offensive player of the week is going to be Christian Rhodes. Mm-hmm. And defensively, I think Aiden Little is going to be our defensive MVP. I believe he had 6 tackles, a couple quarterback pressure, caused fumble, and so he was kind of everywhere the other night, and he's just got unbelievable athleticism. And then, we got a tall task on Friday. We're going to need him to play really well as our defense to get some stops against a really high-flying offense.
All right, yeah, and that's right. I just, by the way, was pretty good. You hadn't been here that long as head coach, but that share of the District 7-6A title, that ties you now, Coach Campbell, with Mike Zafuto, the legendary Coach Z, for a number of district championships. So there you go, man.
Yeah, I don't know what that does for you other than you have to have really, really good players. And, we've been fortunate to do that. Excited about the opportunity that we get moving forward with this group.
All right, and by the way, you mentioned Aiden Little in there on a sack. Peyton Nicholson was getting after him. Jordan Condoba has been great all season, and it's just fun to look at those guys and watch them get after the quarterback, and then all across the secondary. What you all have had the ability to do. A lot of schools they like to get. Can we get a whole experienced group of defensive backs? You all seem to have a good combination sometimes, and you've had sophomores that play, juniors, seniors, and then you can kind of let some of those guys be the leaders. So that has been a good thing. Okay, I want you to – we're not going to take too much of Coach Campbell's time tonight. We'll take his assistant's time. But as he gets ready for this big game Friday night, 7 o'clock, should be able to get tickets to this. You think – Have you heard? Okay, what's the information on that?
The online, whatever the brush fire or whatever that is, that's the easiest way to get tickets. I believe they sent that out Saturday or Sunday, so we'll have all that information for ticket purchase.
Okay, and I'll get all my requests in for sideline passes and that type of thing. It is the Boneyard Podcast. It is now time to go behind enemy lines. Davis Wilson joins us to interview Coach Corey Campbell as the Wildcats get ready for South Grand Prairie.
Okay, welcome back to the Boneyard Podcast. We are behind enemy lines. Coach, congrats on another playoff appearance. Are you getting a little tired of playing South Grand Prairie? This is the 6th time you guys are seeing each other in 6 years.
Well, I think a lot of it is the big school, small school route. I think our attendance is around, just shy of 3,000. Theirs is probably a little bit over 3,000. So we're both in our respective districts. If we finish playoff bound, so to speak, you're going to be in the big school bracket. And it just so happens, and a lot of respect for Coach DeLay and their program. They've been successful for, quite a number of years. And so whenever those playoff scenarios get matched up, we see them a lot. And it's not just in football. Our volleyball team played them in the bi-district round. We're matched up with that Arlington, South Grand Prairie, Haltom district. And so, I think it's two good programs that, ironically have just been pitted against one another. It's becoming quite a joke in the Metroplex. I think everybody I talk to, that's what they ask me, before the season starts. Who do you play first round? And they always joke about South Grand Prairie. So, like I said, credit to those guys and their program and what they've done over there. And, a lot of respect for them. It's going to be a tough one Friday night.
Yeah, you talk about Coach DeLay. He's been there for 5 years now, I think. So I imagine when you're playing a team this many times in a row with the same coach, there are some things schematically that you're familiar with maybe when you're going in. So when you're preparing for a game like that, what are the pros of getting to play a team again that you've played so many times? And then what are some of the challenges in doing that?
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is, we trade all 10 games. And so that is quite a different example than what we're normally going to get in week 5, where you may really look at 3 games because maybe you're playing a wing T team or the other team's front's different than your front. It just doesn't match as far as what you can look at. And so when you go back and dive into 10 games, I think the first thing we did is ran all of our data. And then we went back Saturday afternoon and started to look at last year just a little bit, and just to see how similar they were. They do a lot of things that we've seen in the past, and so do we. And so there will be a familiarity with the opponent just because we played them so many times, and a little bit of the scheme. But, as any program, you're going to graduate players. You're going to have strengths. You're going to have weaknesses. And so I think, they're a little bit different, in 2025, and so are we. And so I think you kind of take it with a grain of salt. They're gonna run a ton of stretch zone. They're gonna play action. They're gonna run the quarterback. That's what we saw a lot of last year. And then defensively, they're going to be an odd defense. So obviously we saw that. And so again, you take some of those things from games and you don't take other things.
Yeah. What kind of offense? You mentioned the stretch zones and everything, but what kind of offense do they run?
Yeah, so they're going to be multiple. And when I say they're going to be multiple, they're going to bump, they're going to line up, they're going to shift, they're going to motion, but it's all going to start with the quarterback and running back. I mean, you got 2 Division I athletes back there that are special, and so we're going to have to do a great job of trying to bottle those guys up best we can. And so I think that's where they start offensively. And like I said, they're a big RPO team, so he'll pull it, have the ability to run the ball, and then obviously, kind of like in the triple option days, instead of optioning the football, now they're going to be able to throw it, kind of like Art Browse did at Baylor a little bit, where you're going to pull it and the quarterback has the opportunity to run it, but if he doesn't like it, now he can throw it. And so, that's something we don't see all the time. So it's going to be a huge challenge. I think today As we did scouting reports and installs and all the things that we do on a Monday, you just kind of start to look at, you got 10 games. So as a coaching staff, we have to decide, okay, you can't show them everything in that amount of time. So you've got to really decide and decipher what their bread and butter is. What do they really like to do? What are they really good at? And start to build those game plans, from an offensive and defensive perspective around those tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned those two guys on offense going to play college. They have a running back, I think Josiah Lucas, going to San Diego State, and then their quarterback, Dalen Brooks, is going to play baseball at, I think, UTA. I looked it up. So a lot of talent there, obviously. They're what are they, 8-1, 9-1?
Yeah, so they're technically 9-1. One of the games, if you remember back in weather late in the year that we were in early in the season, one of their games was ruled a no contest against, I believe it was Timber Creek. Keller, I believe it was early week 2 maybe. And so they have a record of 8-1, but they were winning that game. So, you're talking about a 9-1 football team. They lost a close one last Thursday night for the district championship to Arlington Bowie, who won the district championship the year before. So two really, really good football teams going at it. It was a close game, decided, like I said, by field goal type deal at the end. And so they played a really good schedule. They score a lot of points. Really good linebacking core, athleticism in the secondary, and from a defensive perspective, and then obviously they're special at the skill position.
Yeah,
on offense.
Yeah, they I think they averaged, I got it here, is 48 points a game. Last week, you mentioned the game against Bowie. They were it was a 3-point loss, but Bowie was able to hold them to a season low in points and yards. So I'm wondering, when you look at that game, is there anything you can find on tape that Bowie did that maybe you guys can try to emulate?
Yeah, I think Bowie was super physical. And the second thing is South Grand Prairie turned the ball over twice inside the 10-yard line. One of them on a 4th down play. And so, at the end of the day, they got it down there and had trouble in the red zone a little bit. They played much better in the second half. I believe it was like 17-0 at halftime, and they come all the way back. And then, the final 24-21 field goal game, they showed some of that explosive in the second half and gave Bowie some fits. But like I said, Bowie's a really good program as well. So it was a heck of a game to watch and kind of scout from our perspective. But I think the one thing that that I take from Bowie is they were really physical on defense.
Yeah.
And I think they got after him a little bit at times. But at the other times, like I said, the Lucas kid, he got loose, and when he gets loose, he's different. Talking about a Division I running back, and they don't recruit them if they're not really, really talented. So it's going to be a huge challenge Friday night.
Yeah. Defensively for South Grand Prairie, you mentioned a little bit about what they run, but what are some of the, based on what you've seen, what are their strengths positionally? What are their more so weaknesses?
Yeah. So, I believe they're not. One of the things that makes it difficult for us is they're an odd front, 3-down look, but they play a 3-3 stack, and they're gonna take one of those stack backers and they're gonna break that stack and they're gonna walk him down there and make a 4-man front. So they're gonna show you some multiple looks. That makes it tough up front. They have number 2, their corner, also a receiver. He plays. You don't see it a whole lot anymore. He plays both ways. And he's super talented. I believe he may be going to Baylor. I rumored today that I got or something like that. I think he's got a lot of different offers. But when you look at them from a defensive perspective, they're really sound up front. They're big. So I don't know that, I look at the tape and say there's a lot of weaknesses or anything like that. We again kind of mentioned it a while ago. We're familiar with them to a certain extent of what Coach DeLay likes to do. He's a defensive guy of what they've done the past few years. But they're just super athletic.
Yeah.
When you get past that down front, they're just going to be crazy athletic. And so one thing we've talked to our kids about is we've got to be able to move the chains. We've got to be able to win on first down, make 3 or 4 or 5 yards in the run game, and then extend drives to keep the ball away from that explosive offense.
Yeah. For you guys, we've talked about their skill players, but you guys have your fair share of skill players too, and an offense that has done really well this year. I've always kind of wondered when when you have two good teams like this, especially in the playoffs, when you're preparing, are you game planning? Are you going to try to do things that you do well, or are you looking to exploit something they maybe don't do well?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you're always going to go with probably 75% of what you feel like your kids have shown you on tape that they've mastered, that we've been successful with. And we're always going to err there. And then the other 25%, you're going to look at a defense, a one high defense or two high defense, or a team that blitzes a lot, or a team that plays, this coverage versus this formation, and you're going to try to exploit that. And when you get into the game, you're going to run what you've run all year long, but there's going to be those opportunities where you feel like, hey, we can take this chance right here. We can do this right here. And so I think it's a little bit of both, but it's got to be a lot more about who we are.
Right.
Franklin and Christian and Chuck, those guys, we're going to go with those guys, with our outside receivers and Conrad and Spang and Junior and Kobe and Trey, and we're going to go with those guys. And so we got to do a good job of winning up front to give opportunity to run the football. And then when we have the opportunity to throw it, we need to be able to protect as well. So I think there's a combination of it all, but you go into a game, you're not going to change your offense based on what they do, because you get 3 days to practice.
Right.
You get a walkthrough on Thursday, maybe. Your kids are probably getting 5 or 6 hours of video. You're probably getting 7-8 hours of practice in. So at the end of the day, they're 17, 18-year-old kids. You gotta, what's that old saying? You gotta dance with who brung you. And so that's who we are, and so that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. You talked about Christian Rhodes in the run game. He had 150 yards, a touchdown last week. I think he had 120 something yards against South Carolina Prairie last year.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about him with Matt earlier, and before the show, you were talking about how he's not played in a lot of second halves, but this time of year in the playoffs, when it's going to be close, it's going to be competitive, it seems like he's exactly the type of guy that you want to have. Especially South Carolina Prairie, they gave up 200 to Haltom, I think, a couple weeks ago, 196 on the ground the week before that. So there are opportunities, it seems, to run the ball. But how important is having a guy like Christian Rhodes and also Franklin Evans and everybody else who runs it this time of year?
It's extremely important, because at the end of the day, nothing's more demoralizing to a defense if you can line up and consistently run the football. Not to mention, it opens up every facet of our offense. And so, I reiterated to the kids today, you get in games like this, I don't care if you're watching Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to run you're going to run the football and not be successful. We're not going to win the play on a mid zone or a counter play. But 3 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, and a guy like Christian, a guy like Franklin can rack up those yards, and it can be the difference in the game. 128 yards rushing Friday night, that could be the difference in the game. And they're not going to be all easy yards, and they're not going to be 60-yard runs and stuff like that. But that's what happens this time of year. You're going to play against really good defenses, and we're going to have to win in the trenches, and there's going to be some hard yards made, but we got to keep those chains moving.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I have for you is how we ended every week, but what are your keys to a win here for Lincoln?
Yeah, I think from our defensive perspective, their offense, it all starts with the quarterback and running back. They're really special, and so we're gonna have to do a good job of the quarterback's going to run some read game too, and so you're going to get dialed in on that running back, and then all of a sudden that quarterback's going to pull it. So we've got to be really disciplined. We got to have great eyes, got to read our keys, all the stuff, and then they will throw it too. And so I think we've talked about this a lot. You get loaded boxes and stuff. Sometimes it makes for a passing game, opens up a little bit. So we're going to have to do a good job in the secondary. But it really will start with and end with the quarterback and running back. They're the difference makers. We've got to stop. We want to put them in some third and medium, third and long situations where they're having to go 4 and 5 wide and maybe throw it around and do some things that they don't do all the time. And I think offensively, for the first time is we have got. We've talked about first down efficiency. I think that's kind of my answer every week. but we've got to run the football for 130, 150 yards. You know, when you look at our Berkner game, which was a close game, there was a lot of hard yards in that game. But that's the difference, because it gives you that balance. You know, a couple weeks later against Richardson, we didn't have that balance. We didn't play well up front, and we've got to be better up there. And you know, I think the game of football, I know everybody likes all this fancy stuff and throwing the ball, but it's still won and lost in the trenches. And you know, we need to be the more physical team, and we need to be able to rush the football, even when it's not there Friday night. We need to be able to continue to put the ball in Christian and Franklin's hands, and continue to lean on that run game to give us that balance to make everything else work.
Yep. Well, there you go. Those are the keys to the game for Lake Highlands. 7:00 on Friday. Coach, thanks for doing this. Good luck on Friday.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to turn it back over to Matt, who's going to talk to a couple of your assistants, I think. So
that'll be good.
Yeah, this should be good. But I'll turn it back to Matt for the rest of the Boneyard podcast.
All right, it is Matt Mosley. Thank you, Davis. Thank you for Behind Enemy Lines, and always good to have Coach Corey Campbell really shed so much light and give us the game plan and everything, spelled it out for us. But no, that was good stuff. This is going to be quite a contest on Friday night over in the Gopher Bowl. Nathan Hattemer joining me now, and Nathan, a guy I admire for a lot of reasons, not the least of which he trimmed down, something that I would love to do someday. But hey, welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. You've been on before, but it's great to have you back. And we were bragging on your O-liner, or even Coach Campbell, and he's hanging out in here with us right now, so he may not admit to it. But you guys have, and this happens throughout seasons, but y'all have had to funnel quite a few people through this season, and I'm sure that gets challenging at times. Has this been more than usual, would you say, this season, or about like, is it about always like this?
Last year and this year, yeah, lot of moving parts, just injuries, and just trying to find the right fit and moving kids around. And so yeah, there's been a lot of, especially on the right side. Left side's been pretty solid, but right side we've started probably 3 different right guards and 3 different right tackles. So a couple different centers. So yeah, it's been a lot of moving parts this year. So
all right, but I mean, they've all, you know, even when they've been out for a while, then they'll rotate back in. I know Wright was in there at guard the other night. Copeland. I mean, you've got, walk us through a couple, you know, a few of your players that you know, have really stood out to you this year.
Well, we're all seniors at this point, and it's been that way most of the year. We lost Mason Bush early, of course. That was a big loss for us. We're really excited about him getting his junior year after losing him his sophomore year, and then had another junior rotate in there a little bit, but then on that, it's been all seniors. And so, yeah, we had a real big surprise with Lawal. Alim Lawal was a kid that came to us late, didn't come to us till late in the spring of his sophomore year. Played JV last year, and then had a nice spring ball, and so he's played a good deal for us. A lot more than we probably had expected, and we've been excited and happy with his production. There on the left side with Bonner, was a started every game for us last year, and he has started every game for us this year, and has really become pretty irreplaceable. He does a great job, and really knows what we're doing, understands our scheme, and so he's consistently improved. And Caleb Goins, our left tackle, is a kid again, program kid, as we say. Played freshman ball, played JV as a sophomore, played JV as a junior, and just kind of grew and grew, and has done a great job coming in as a senior and really playing for us. And then a couple of defensive players also. Peyton Nicholson, we're going to play him a little bit at guard. And then Elijah Niamaro is going to play a little bit of guard. And then Copeland Greenberg at center, man. He's done a great job. Again, another kid that, we really didn't know what he was going to be able to do for us coming out of his junior year, JV for 2 years, and then, really developed and got stronger and has become quite the asset at center. Does a great job snapping the football and then does a great job after the snap too. So we've been real excited and really happy with all their production. And I always want to take an opportunity when I talk about O-line and talk about our being senior laden to give a shout out to Judge Smith. It's a huge testament to our program and the job that he does, in that it is hard to play for us as an underclassman. Seniors have an advantage because they've had one more year in his weight room. And he does such a phenomenal job of building these kids that it really puts underclassmen at a disadvantage, rightfully so, because they have 1 year less in development in his weight room. So always, I feel like that's a huge testament to what he does and what he does for our program throughout the program. But I think it really is amplified on the offensive line.
Do these guys, I see at the college level, a lot of times they compete in the weight room and it'll be like the weightlifter of the day or how many reps a guy can do, or maybe they're maxing out. Does it get pretty competitive in there?
It does. And it's it's the right kind of competitive, I would say. If you're in our weight room, it's a lot of encouragement. Our kids want their buddies to do well, and they're always encouraging. And if there's any falling off, there's always guys there to pick them up and motivate them and push them along. So we always like putting some of our younger guys in with some of our older guys to kind of show them the ropes and push them along and make sure they're holding them accountable. So, yeah, there's a lot of competition, but it's a lot of competition with self, because the maxes are a big deal. And obviously you want to get a bigger max than that guy or whatever, but at the end of the day, you want to get a better max than you got the time before. So it kind of is a self-fulfilling thing. So
what's the relationship like with these O linemen and these running backs? You've had Christian now has been incredible, and he's a quieter, shy guy. I don't really know Franklin or haven't been around him that much, but he's obviously been heavily involved in the passing and the run game. Yeah. But how's obviously seems to be a good rhythm and with those guys. Do they feed off each other?
They do, and it goes both ways. When you have that guy behind you and that if you do your job, then it's an extra motivation. I feel like, to know that, hey, if we just do this right, that dude's going to take advantage of it. He's going to take advantage of every piece of effort, every assignment, sound block that we have, every ounce of effort we give. It's going to be returned to us because that guy behind us is going to take advantage of every single yard that we allow him to get. So yeah, it's fun for me as an O-line coach to watch a kid like Christian develop over the last 2 years, coming in and watching him now and how much better of a running back he is now than he was Forney of 2024. So that's fun to watch that development amongst with those backs.
Yeah, I mean, and y'all have had a big role in that, but it's kind of nice to have Deontay, and it goes into Christian, and now Franklin will kind of be the lead horse next year. And I'm sure you have other people on the way. What's the, with you and Coach Campbell and Jimmy and Zach, it seems like there's really good chemistry. I know Paz is more of a prima donna on that side of the ball, but no, we're missing him tonight. He's playing through some pain and sick, and I appreciate you coming by. Both he and Zach were ducking me this evening, and I really appreciate it. But what's that chemistry like with the, especially with the offensive coaches?
I don't mean it's great. I mean, we all work hard, and we all expect each other to work hard, and we all know that we're going to work, that we're going to put in the hours, we're going to do the work, and that we're going to, at the end of the day, work hard to put our kids in the best position possible. And so we really, and we have a love for each other and appreciation for each other. And I don't know, we just, it works. We've been doing it together for so long. Corey and I have been together for 15 years now. Jimmy's been here. Coach Tackett's been here a few years before us. Coach Campbell got here 1 year before I did. And Zach's been here 7-8 years. Yeah. Coach Todd's come along with us and been a big part of that. A couple of young coaches this year coming on with us offensively. Coach Porter has been a huge asset over the years as he's developed. What is this, year 3 with him? And so, yeah, all of them, that nucleus of us, I guess you'd say old guys, that have been here for a long time. And then everybody we brought along with us, has been, it's awesome. And it's fun to work. It's a fun environment. Our office is an enjoyable place to be. So, and that's a huge deal for.
Yeah. Well, that's why y'all stay in there for so long. It's a pretty neat culture and a group that has stayed it. Okay. Walk me through a little bit of South Grand Prairie. What do they do up front? And what are sort of the keys to making sure you get that running game cranked up as the running game coordinator for this team?
Yeah, they're real multiple, which makes it hard on us. Always, anytime a defense can be multiple in their looks, I would say they probably base out of a 3-3 stack, but they only play that about 40% of the time because then they're moving into other things, getting into odd fronts, getting into doing some movement, or getting into even fronts and doing some movement and some other things. So they're real multiple is what I would say. Personnel is really nice. Their linebackers are really, really fun to watch play football. Their D-line, their nose gets after it. Their D-ends are really good high school football players. And so it's a nice front. We're going to have our work cut out for it. They're good. They're really good. And so we're excited for that challenge. Always fun to play a good team.
What's your other than football, what's your favorite sport to watch or be a part of?
Oh goodness. Now I grew up loving baseball. I really enjoy baseball. But all of them, basketball, all of it. There's not much. Right now I do a lot of coaching in my kids' sports. So I coach my daughter in basketball, coach my son in basketball. My son just got done with his football season, 6th grade. He'll go into 7th grade next year. It's been enjoyable coaching that, but it's going to be nice to not have to do it a year from now.
Is it completely different with coaching your son? Do you treat him just like every other kid, or how do you handle that?
I do the best I can to not treat him any more differently than the others. Although I would say I probably fail at that most times.
Maybe give him some feedback over the dinner table.
Yeah. We work hard at. They tell you not to talk about football with your kids when you're not on the football field. So we don't. We when it's over, we don't talk about it on the ride home. So anything that's happened on the field, and we move on, and we change the subject and talk about the great things in life instead of.
Well, that's nice. Yeah,
being on the ball field. So.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Corey sometime if that's the approach he takes. This is listen, it's going to be fun, and that's the only thing. Yeah. SGP. I guess on one hand, the familiarity with the program is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because they're familiar with you guys as well.
Yeah.
So
we've morphed over the years, and they have as well. So they don't do the same thing, and now we adjust to our personnel on a yearly basis. So we're a good deal different this year than we were a year ago, just because our personnel is a good deal different. So.
Well, you and Zach and Paz has been a buddy of mine for a long time, and y'all just have a great group. So
sure.
I appreciate you stopping by the Boneyard podcast. I hope it's a podcast you consume. I think JT is probably the biggest consumer of the podcast. He's our biggest listener out there. But I appreciate you and appreciate you being a part of this.
I will hear from JT first thing right after this airs about the fact that he heard me on this. So yes.
Yeah. He does a good job over there on that sideline. He's a hype man.
He's my football guy. He brings the football out every day. Every day he brings my football out for me. My line football. Coach Haug won't let me use the receivers' balls anymore. So he just gave me a ball at the beginning of the year. And so JT's my guy. He brings my football. And the reason that he misses, I forget my football and I have to go bake for him.
I'm sorry. Zach is being so selfish. But you guys do a great job. I always like this time of year because the Wildcat Club and other places will kind of highlight you guys and put some neat stuff out there about that. Now, what is what's your college team you pull for?
I went to Kansas State.
Okay, Wildcats.
Kansas State fan, so whenever I can be, they make it a little bit difficult sometimes. So
it's good. I think Coach Kleiman's doing a good job there, and we need to send some Lake Highlands kids out there. Although the ones that can really play need to show up in Waco. Good Baptist kids. All right. Well, that is. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah,
you stop by anytime, and always great to catch up with you. For Corey Campbell, Coach Hattemer, and Davis Wilson, I am Matt Mosley. We'll see you Friday night, 7:00 at the Gopher Bowl.
Yeah.